For the last 3 decades, I've had the privilege of interacting every now and again with Ravishankar Prasad ji. Quite besides his political sort of prowess, all of what he's achieved, I can confess that it's him as a lawyer that has impressed me most. There are few people in this country, in our country, India, with a sharper legal intellect, and it's something which has been a source of constant admiration, which is why it's a great privilege for me to welcome him over here to NDTV Anviksha and have him on this panel for this conversation on the future of the relationship between India and Nepal. Raviji, it's a difficult day today. I wish the circumstances had been different. India and Nepal have so much in common, and it's a shared grief, isn't it, at this hour?
I totally agree with you, Vishnu. Yesterday, I was in two minds, whether I should come or not. Then I talked to the Foreign Secretary, and he said, "Sir, you must go and convey in unmistakable terms, India stands firmly with Nepal in this hour of grief." And he also told me that India's assistance is all in way. 2 flights have started. Well, Vishnu, let me put it in a different context. Do we view the relationship between Nepal and India only in terms of geographical boundary or national identity or passport, or is something beyond? Repeatedly, I'm hearing a reference of 2015 earthquake. I was then the communication minister of India. Lots of Indians were held up here. I said, "Kya karna hai?" The first thing, we need connectivity. And I asked BSNL, make it local call. And I also persuaded the other channels, कि तुम भी कुछ करो. It was a great help. And lighter note, the private mobile channels only kept it domestic for 2 days, and many of the journalists who have come to Nepal to cover it were fastened with heavy bills. But that is beside the point.
I know, sir.
Huh? You know it now. Vishnu, what I'm trying to say is, ये रोटी बेटी का संबंध ऐसे ही नहीं कहते हैं. You become the first responder in the hour of crisis, and that is quite natural. And the second thing is, this is across the board. Indian democracy is well known for its mercurial divide, if I can use that expression. But when it comes to the issue of Nepal, there is consensus. The second thing, while I compliment the new government, they have been elected with massive majority. But never forget one thing. Indians always have a groundswell of support for democratic urges of Nepal. Let us not name anyone. And if I can say it a little poetically, so long as Pashupati Nath is there in Nepal and Kashi Vishnath is there in India, this relationship is going to endure.
But Raviji, let me ask you this. It's a historic relationship, it's a cultural relationship. You've referred to that. You've referred to how we have stood by our brothers and sisters in this country. But there is a new generation over here, a generation driven by Instagram and Twitter. There's been a Gen Z revolution in this country. And the language that they speak is a language which is perhaps different from what an older generation of Nepali citizens spoke. Therefore, how important is it for us to understand what drives a newer generation of young Nepali?
I'll reply to your question in 2 ways. Lord Ram is revered in India, and Lord Ram is the son-in-law of Nepal. Mata Janki is the mother. Recently, when the Ram Janbhoomi temple was consecrated, lot of bhar came. What is bhar? Gift to the son-in-law. And many young people send it from Madhesh area, I know for sure. So many tens of crores people have visited Ayodhya Vishnu. If we set up a proper rail link, which I think must be, between Ayodhya and Janakpur, you see the kind of tourism potential it is there. The Gen Z will not be oblivious to these very clear dividends which will come in the way. But on a larger issue, I do agree with you. Time changes. We need to move with the aspirations of young people. Why not? In India or in Nepal. And for me, the most pleasant part is that today many Nepalis are involved in startup movement. As a former IT Minister of India, I know for sure how IT has done wonders in India. Nepal is picking up. This is how I see it.
But sir, is it also true that the words Gen Z are hyped? You were a student leader, you've been an activist, you were young, and you still are young, but you were younger then. And therefore, in every country, every democracy, whether Nepal, Bangladesh or India, there have been young protesters for whatever the cause may have been. So how is Gen Z different other than the fact that they use technology which wasn't there earlier?
I would say two things. You are right. Technology is easy reach. What is happening? But remember one thing. Some degree of young protest is always integral to a democracy. But the maturity of the country depends upon how you handle it. That is very important. And the Gen Z understands that things are being handled. And if they are not being handled, I can tell you my own days of JP movement fighting against the emergency. Huh? Yes. No, there was a famous comment, you being a journalist recall that, what Advaniji said during emergency, when they were asked to bend, they were prepared to crawl.
Yeah.
Huh? Today we hear a lot of Godi media, and what kind of media we are saying that, we know it very well. But the point is, the world has changed, and let us appreciate and respect the urge of younger people. This is how I feel. And I always trust the maturity of younger people. And I can tell you, having handled the IT department for close to 7.5 years, the way India has changed, it's truly remarkable. Therefore, trust them. They'll give results.
But Raviji, this is a bit of a conspiracy theory. It's not mine. It's been stated by others. Before you say, Vishnu, what on earth are you suggesting? There's a Gen Z movement here, that's clear. There's a very young people's movement in Bangladesh as well. We've seen something in India as well. Why is it that for different circumstances, you see Gen Z reacting across the subcontinent?
Well, it is a natural phenomenon. If there is something wrong, either rightly wrong or perceived to be wrong, they would react. But the point is there a proper institutional mechanism to address the concern? For instance, a lot of Gen Z is there in Pak-occupied Kashmir, in Baluchistan,
where there are huge protests.
They are being killed with impunity. And that Baloch girl, what is the name? I forget. She's also a Gen Z.
Yeah.
Therefore, how do you address their concerns? That is always the benchmark of a stable future. And ultimately it comes from democracy. It comes from stability. It comes from being understanding of their concerns. If you take it that way, therefore you cannot compare what is happening in Bangladesh and particularly in Pakistan with India or in Nepal. After all, Nepal, I'm sorry for making a political comment, before the present government came to power, there was Ayaram, Gayaram here there as well. You know it very well or not?
Yeah.
That great phenomena.
No, but sir, I think the larger point that needs to be asked is, and you was talking a little bit about Pakistan as well, that remains a constant scourge for us in India, for terrorism and other factors as well. Would you like to elaborate a little bit more about the dangers that we face from Pakistan on one side as we try and negotiate friendly relationships with a host of other nations in the subcontinent?
terrorism can never be an answer to a stable relationship. Using terrorism as an instrument of uh, compulsive foreign policy is not right. And all those who have encouraged that become a victim of that. You know it very well. Pakistan does not learn a lesson at all because Pakistan is not democracy. I'm sorry to make this comment, but permit me to make this comment. Jinnah met Pakistan, it becomes journals ki dukaan. That is the hard fact. We wish well for Pakistan. I know Pakistani people are nice. They want good relations with India. But the point is, the generals use terrorism as an instrument of state policy. And you may have seen what happened in SARC. One of the failures of SARC is that only.
Yes.
Now coming to Nepal, I must tell you something more. Cultural connect will always remain the most powerful mooring of these two countries. The Buddhist circuit, the Ramayana circuit, from Kedarnath to Badrinath to Muktinath to Pashupatinath to Somnath to Rameshwaram, you cannot wish them away. I come from Bihar, Vishnu. Think of festivals. Chhat is celebrated with gusto in Bihar, the biggest festival.
Yes.
So it in Madhesh areas. Then the Upasana of Devi Shakti, the Parvati, the Kali, the Bhairavi, common to both. Therefore, this great commonality of teeth shared by the two countries for generations and generations will remain the biggest mooring and unwavering connect for the prosperity of the two countries.
But let me make an observation, sir. And we see this very
But
often
we have
on
to
social
also
media.
address the concerns. And the biggest thing I would like to share with you today, since we are also talking of future,
Yeah.
environmental concern will have to be addressed. I see Himalayas in two respects. Himalaya is Tapabhumi, both for Nepal and also for India. But Himalaya is also becoming a very big area of uncertainty in terms of environmental challenges. I would today recommend from your platform that the biggest scope for relationship between India and Nepal should be on proper management of climate issues in the hilly areas, how we can exchange notes, learn from each other. And I think we have a lot to learn from Nepal. And Nepal also has to learn from India. And I want to make it very clear, we don't at all eye any big brotherly attitude.
That was my question.
And I can anticipate your question. I have been suffering for so long. Therefore, I can anticipate your questions. I want to make it very clear from NDTV platform today in Kathmandu, and I compliment NDTV for inviting me. We don't eye any big brother. The comment of Prime Minister which we heard in the previous panel, that not even a single war of India is there in which some Nepali has not shed blood. This is a very powerful statement. Therefore, the instinct for help, the instinct for sharing is quite natural between the two countries. And that will remain the biggest foundation. I always say that. What other issues we should look for future? Power sector, water management.
No, but let me ask you a few questions. I
Yes.
think you made an important point about that big brother attitude. Would you concede that this has been a problem, and it's not specific to any government, that we have had with regard to a country like Nepal? If you see Twitter, social media, it's like we dominate with our opinions. I think the best thing we have done now in dealing with the present tragedy is just let the people of Nepal decide how we can assist them. It's not as if we are forcing anything on anybody.
That should be the approach. I told
Is that
you,
something we have failed in the past?
I'm telling you, in 2015, when this earthquake happened, the first question I asked what the people want there. They want connectivity. I said provide that at a domestic rates. Here you have seen, today Indian Armed Forces are coming to repair the bridges and all these things, medical help, national disaster team is here. Therefore, I think there is a big reservoir of relationship whereby we can understand what Nepal needs. And that should be there. But I wish to emphasize again, Vishnu, we treat Nepal with all equality as a friendly country, respecting their sovereignty and also respecting a common urge to share future, shared future.
Raviji, you referred to what the Prime Minister said when he said that there hasn't been a war where the people of Nepal haven't had a role. Now we are in a scenario where, because of our own Agnipath scheme, there are restrictions on the number of Nepali soldiers who can get a permanent commission in the Gurkha regiments. Now this is an issue over here which is of concern, and I think that's understandable because it's been part of Nepalese contribution to themselves by way of salaries but it's also been an important contribution to us. It's obviously an impasse. How do you look at it?
I think no issue between Nepal and India is not capable of solution. Okay? We have seen many problems and we have resolved that. We'll find a way out for that as well. I take note of what you say. I am myself a great, I have a sentimental attachment with Gorkhas people whenever I see them. In fact, one of the biggest thing, I never miss a 26th January march in Delhi. Others I can skip. And whenever the Gorkha brigade marches, my feet start tapping with them. It's smart. That is the connect we have. Okay. Therefore, this can be, we can find a way out for it. That's no problem. That is a very small issue. But the larger issue are basically strategic, connectivity, roads, power. How many rivers originate from Nepal? From Bagmati to Gandaki to others, Koshi. And all of them, when they became furious, they trampled upon my state of Bihar. Okay?
Yes. Yes.
Don't you think there is a need that those reservoirs should be properly harnessed for energy? There is abundance of scope available. This is how I see it.
You know, Raviji, before, as we begin to wrap this up, I think one of the points you said which really resonated with me was the need for Nepal and India to work together to manage the Himalayas. We are dealing with a tragedy now, but it's fairly clear that there was a massive avalanche, which resulted in the blocking of the river. River waters rose, a narrow river valley, and we've seen inundation, which has caused countless deaths. As climate change becomes a real reality, as avalanche melt is a reality, as crevices are formed, how much of management of our shared Himalayan ecosystem is it, imperative upon India and Nepal to deal with?
It is very much imperative. In fact, I see it in two ways, Vishnu. Speaking in civilizational terms, so many sannyasis have dubbed up on the holy precincts of Himalayas the last thousands of years. Okay. At times their soul also says, enough is enough. Let Himalayas be a place for not only pilgrimage, but also for redemption through our tap. That is one significant aspect they are conveying. Means don't overexploit. To undertake optimum use, but don't overexploit. Yeah. That's how I see it. Yeah.
And the future of the relationship, and this is my sort of final question to you, is it based on that cultural connect, or do you see it increasingly based on greater economic engagement?
As I said at the very outset in the beginning, you cannot conceive of Indo-Nepalese relationship based upon conventional nuances of foreign policy diplomacy. Culture, civilization, festivals, food habit, language, worship, all will always form an important ingredient for that. But having said that, what is important is to build upon that for sound economic progress.
Well, I think that's such an important sort of assertion that everything we talk about now, whether it's the ecology, whether it's jobs, whether it's education, whether it's communication, it's based on a shared heritage at so many levels. Raviji, it's always been a privilege for me to speak to you. This conversation is at a difficult time, and hopefully the people in Nepal who we sort of feel for in this hour of need can overcome this incredible tragedy. Thank you, sir.
Well, my very sincere condolence. We all share their agony. Let me conclude during this somber moment. We in India stand firmly with the pains of Nepalese people. And as balm has come about in the previous disasters, surely it will come with a bright future assurance as we see it.
Thank you, Raviji.
Thank you.